Hello everyone, and welcome to Becoming Wolves. So today I've been thinking about some questions that have come up and talks with some friends of mine. It's questions about why we should think about what victory looks like for us. Victory for many people just means winning the next election or stopping some error that we are currently doing, like the overturning of Roe v. Wade, or keeping the MAID system, which is in Canada, from coming to the United States, or trying to correct the medical system that we have. But there's some issues with that definition of victory. The main one is that it can be taken away. Any progress that someone makes on a minor level can be taken away just quickly as the Supreme Court looking at the Roe v. Wade again and making a more binding decision, or let's say some people in the federal government coming up and deciding, okay, we're going to make abortion rights the law of the land, because they can do that. They might get pushback, but they can do it. And we still have children being killed throughout the United States. We have abortion throughout the United States. Some of it is actually worse than it was before, because you're getting male contraceptives that actually kill the child. So have we actually won? And what does winning look like? That is the question that I'm trying to talk to you guys about. That is what is necessary in order to win long term. If I'm trying to get from point A to point Z, now I have to figure out what point B, C, and D are. But in order to do that and not make a mistake, I have to know where Z is. I have to have a point that I'm aiming for. Just like aiming a rifle, you have to know what your target is. You might have all the stuff figured out with the gun, but you don't have any idea where you're shooting at. And that's what we need to figure out, is what we're shooting at. What does winning look like? Can we win in a real sense in the system that we have? We won the last few elections, yes? Good. So what major thing has changed? Are we going to survive? Empires rise and fall. What happens when the United States falls? That's very likely to happen. Empires rise and fall. This is a known fact. And there seems to be an assumption in every empire, including ours right now, that it will never fall. It is too big to fail. It is impossible for it to fall. Well, I'm sure that the people of Petra thought that, and I'm sure that the Roman Empire thought that. So did the Egyptian Empire and Mesopotamian Empire, the Medes and Persians, all of those. And the great kingdom of Babylon. All of them assumed that they would never fail, that they were too big to fail. A lot of Christians these days, Protestants mainly, will assume that if the United States falls, it means the end of time, because the United States, aside from Israel, is the chosen country, that it is the arm of God in the world. Well, there's some issues with that perspective, especially with how we've dealt with Africa, how we've dealt with the Middle East, how we've dealt with pretty much everybody we've dealt with, aside, including our own people. We've poisoned our land. We've made it to where you really can't plant anything on it without eating pesticides from the food. And in order for it to drop to a safe level where it won't affect us, it's going to take at least 50 years of not doing anything to it. Talking about Roundup here, something that's sprayed on every field crop, especially the no-till field crops. All right, let's talk about Petra. Petra was a center of commerce, and too big to fail. They were impregnable in their cities, and they terrorized the people of Israel, God's people. So what did God say? They said that the goats would live in your houses, and I think it was some sort of bird would live in them too. or in their temples. So what happened? Well, they lived in their pride. Then all of a sudden, a new trade route opened that bypassed Petra, and it is desolate now. It quickly fell. The same thing happened with with Rome. Rome was too big to fail, but then in its indulgences and its self-destructive behavior, it fell to somebody that they thought was of no import, the Germanic tribes, and they took on the mantle of empire. How about the Medes and the Persians? They fell to King Alexander, the Alexander the Great. And what happened to the Grecians? Well, they fell to Rome. Rome fell to the Germans. So no empire is safe, especially when it has self-destructive behavior, like ours does. Ours, we just lost the petrodollar. We had exclusive rights to trade in American dollars with Saudi Arabia, with oil. Every other country had to buy our dollar. Now they don't. And so we're having inflation because we're trying to keep up appearances. But we've lost a major part of our trade. And if other countries start doing this, like with some of the countries in Africa that trade exclusively in American dollars in order to pay off their debts that they owe us, what are we going to do? The current idea is to invest in AI. That AI is going to be the future. AI is going to bring up the masses, or at least prop up the economy. But that's going to fail. Why do I say that? I'm pretty sure it's going to fail. And if it doesn't, so be it, but it's going to be a dystopia. I would rather it fail. I would rather not live in a time that is ruled by AI. I'd rather live in a time of honor and being able to stand up like a man and fight. And we're also having other issues, but I don't really want to talk about the issues. If you have ears to hear and eyes to see, you can see the problems and the trajectory that we're going. If you take the trajectory of the last 50, 60, 70, even 100 years, you'll see what direction we're actually going. This is a long-term strategy. The enemy is great about long-term strategies, and we have to be better. The enemy knows where it wants to take us. We don't know where we're fucking going, and we gotta fucking change that. That's why the Bible says that a people without a vision will perish. So we do need to know what we need to do next. We need to know the next few steps. We need to know A, B, C, D, E. But we also have to freaking know where Z is. What is the ultimate victory for us living in this earth, for us and our children and our children's children and their children? We have to think about posterity, and we fucking don't think that. We have to think about our posterity. We have to think about not just this generation, not just our lives in the next 5 years, or 20 years, 40 years. We have to think about the next 200 years, 300 years. In the Irish Reformation, they started thinking about posterity all the way up to 700 years. They made contracts for 700-800 years by faith, trusting that the Lord would bless them for setting up for the next generation. They were wise. We are very unwise. We have forsaken our children. We have forsaken the futures of our children, and our fathers have forsaken our futures. Boomer generation didn't do us any favors. No, not really. Unless you were propped up in a way that you could use the wealth to create more wealth. But for most Americans, especially the middle class, that is not the case. And we're suffering for it, and we'll suffer more. We might get better, a little bit. but the foundation of the collapse is already in place. We're already starting to pull back. There is efforts to push forward, but our enemies are growing stronger, and while we're growing weaker. People say we have the greatest navy in the world. Not for long. What did we end up with when we fought the Germans? Greatest technology ever done, and better than ours in many ways, except for maybe the B-29. What? They had German engineering. German engineering is legendary. And what did we have? We had the Sherman tank. We had pretty good airplanes, but our tanks were not nearly a match for a German tank. There's nuance to all of that. You need to, if you want to research it, go ahead. It's pretty interesting. But it took about 3 Sherman tanks to take out a Tiger. And we were producing enough to where we could just overwhelm them with numbers. And the Chinese Navy might be less, they might be less technically advanced, but they're working on that. But they have numbers, and they have capabilities to produce those numbers. And it's dangerous. It is very dangerous for the American Navy. There's a lot of assumptions that stem from improper doctrine. One of those assumptions is that Christ is coming very soon. Well, Christ does promise to come. He promises to come as a thief in the night, and we are waiting with our lamps lit. What does the Bible say that Jesus will come like? It will come while we're sleeping. And then those that have oil in their lamps will be blessed, and those that have none will not have any. They'll be cast into outer darkness. So the fact that we're expecting it right now tells me he's not coming real soon. He might come anytime, but that kind of defeats the point of what we're trying to do here, which is use our talents to create the greatest possible future we can, and to see that God's will is made manifest in this world. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That is our goal. That should be our goal anyway. But yet we bow to the secularists, to the atheists, to the agnostic, to those that would see God's people fall away and perish. The fact that we have such immorality in this country, in the world, the fact that we support that immorality in Africa, in Christian Africa, the fact that we push it on them, contraceptives, we push radical sexual theories on them, or we did, I think we still do. And we force them to do what we want, according to the wishes of our elite, for no good reason other than our superiority. And that's kind of laughable when we're poisoning our own people. We're poisoning those that want to serve God. They don't care. When they say that there are too many people in the world, they mean it. And they're actively trying to make that happen. So I say again, how do we win? How can we win? How can we set up a system that wins? Can we win in this current system? Can we overcome the entrenched positions of the hierarchy here? Is God still head of our nation?